Now let's talk about some terminologies that you frequently run into in cloud computing. So let's start with IaaS versus PaaS versus SaaS. Um, these are basically the main cloud service models. Cloud computing has these three main cloud service model. This IaaS is infrastructure as a service. PaaS is a platform as a service, and SaaS is the software as a service. In order to understand that, let's start with understanding of what is indeed offered by traditional IT. To the very left, this stack of all blue rectangles, it starts with a networking, storage, server, and from bottom up, it start with networking, storage, servers, virtualization, operating system, middleware, and middleware runtime, data, and application. This is a stack that offered by traditional IT service, beginning with at the hardware level, like networking, storage, servers, and at a certain operating system management level. Where this stops is the middleware and the runtime and the data application. This is where your data comes, your application and your data comes start to kick in. So in the traditional IT system, everything is managed by IT. You will directly using application, and your team, your company's IT team manages everything. In a IaaS system. IaaS is the type of cloud computing service that offers essential compute, storage, and networking. Right? If you think back, what we just see: networking, storage, compute resources on demand on a pay-as-you-go basis. So the on-demand pay-as-you-go is pretty much the same across all cloud computing services. But what IaaS offers is the compute, storage, and networking. That includes virtual machines, disk storage, and networking. Although we haven't gone into the definition of these, I think you can pretty much guess what it means. It means from bottom up. IaaS, this kind of service, offers networking, storage, server, virtualization, all the way to operating system. So cloud service provider will provide you all these. You can directly say, I want a server. It will give you a server with the operating system that you can use with all the server, the compute storage and networking already provisioned for you. So this is the IaaS. In IaaS model, cloud service providers will take care of these gray boxes from networking to operating system. Your IT team still need to provide you with the middleware, runtime, data, and application. A typical example would be like if you have provisioned a machine, web server running in the cloud environment. That web server, you want to put your own code and the own infrastructure. Own software application framework. For example, if you are hosting a uh, Django or Flask server, you will provision a server from a cloud computing service provider and then dump your data and your Flask framework into that machine and start hosting that. Here, you don't need to worry about the networking. You don't need to worry about operating system, right? Cloud computing vendor already provide that for you. All you need to do is to install a framework, the Flask or Django framework, and dump your code there. So this is IaaS. Now, next step is PaaS, Platform as a Service. Platform as a Service is a complete development and deployment environment in the cloud with resources that enables you to deliver everything from simple cloud-based applications to sophisticated cloud-enabled enterprise applications. such as the IDE development tools and database management and application hosting, like Azure App Service. For example, we just mentioned about you are hosting a server in hosting a web server, use Flask. Azure Application Service, Azure App Service actually provides such a hosting environment so that it's taking care of the runtime, the Flask, the middleware and the Flask and the runtime. It provides you with a Python the Python environment, provides you with a Flask folder structure, everything. All you need to do is dump your data into this environment. It will host the website for you. So here, the blue box that you will be managing is just application and data. This is what we call platform as a service. Uh, in fact, a lot of web services can be hosted this way. So another example is a database, right? Or in development tool, such as integrated development environment that you will be doing your coding here in a system, in a peer platform as a service system, and it will run the code for you. And last model we'll be talking about is the SaaS, software as a service. Software as a service is a complete software solution that you purchased on a pay-as-you-go basis. Uh, a very common example is like email, online email providers, like a Gmail or Microsoft Outlook email. You do not need to know where the server is, how they set up the network. You do not need to know what operating systems Google or Microsoft use. And you don't even need to know what kind of emails application software you need to worry about. Um, all you need to know is that once you have a browser, you open up the interface. Then you can send and receive email through that browser. And browser is on your side. So everything you do is connecting to the cloud, to the email service provider and requesting for email related information. From networking all the way to application, it's all taken care of by the service provider, right? You can imagine such an email system, they will definitely require networking and they will require storage for email storage, right? And then it requires servers to run all the processing, text processing, the format processing, and date processing, and all the way up. In order to host the website for you to connect to the emails, then there's another deck of applications and data. All these are taken care of by cloud service provider. You don't need to worry about those, right? You only need to concern about your core business value, which is reading and sending emails. So the advantage of these models is first of all, they reduce effort to maintain technical infrastructure and stacks. Right. As we just said, you don't need to worry about the email servers infrastructure. You don't need to worry about the network. You don't need to worry about the server or application or operating system. It, this way, it helps you reduce the effort to maintain these technical issues, technical considerations, which can help you reduce your size and complexity of your IT team. You don't need a server engineer anymore. You don't need a email system, application system support people anymore. You will utilize the cost saving, scalability, agility, availability, security, all these offered by cloud service. If there's a server down, you can rest assured that Google or Microsoft will provision another server to run your email host. So if the storage is broken, you can rest assured that Google and Microsoft will somehow has a backup somewhere storing your email. Whereas if you are hosting the server yourself, you need to worry, oh, my server is down. So how am I going to handle my company's email, right? anytime the email flow stops, then your company are losing business. So this is the advantage of IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS. Somehow, someone is managing those for you. You can reduce the complexity, reduce the team size, and reduce the cost, and improve the performance, scalability, agility, availability, security, everything. The next question we want to talk about regarding the cloud computing technology is the three types of cloud computing. So there are three types of clouds, basically: public, private, and hybrid. And we're going to talk about each individually. The first thing we want to discuss, first type of cloud is public cloud. Public cloud, remember, public cloud is a cloud that provides IT resources and the services over the internet to the general public or multiple organizations. The word the first part of this definition, provide IT resource and the service over the internet, is actually a um, general definition for cloud computing, for cloud. The second part of this definition, the to the general public or multiple organizations, that's where the word public comes from in terms of public cloud. Remember, public cloud does not, because the public, this word can have multiple meanings. In the US, a lot of times when we talk about public, we are thinking about either the government or some non-profit organizations. We call it or community services. We call this public. But this public is not the same public here. Here in public cloud, public refers to the fact that this kind of a cloud provides service to the general public. If a cloud only provides service to US government, even though US government is considered a public service, that cloud is not a public cloud. Instead, it's a private cloud. It's privately used by a US government, which is a public entity. So in this public cloud world, the major players, three of them, as you can see in this Gartner Leaders Quadrant: Amazon's Web Service, Microsoft, and Google. And Amazon probably takes my personal estimate. There's no solid evidence behind what I'm going to say next, but I personally believe Amazon service is probably like 40% or 50% of the market. Azure is probably like 30%, and Google is probably like 10%. And there are also other clouds, Oracle, IBM, as you can see here, and this totals up to more than 100% because a lot of companies also use multiple clouds, multiple cloud service providers. Now, we briefly touched private cloud, right? Private cloud is a cloud computing environment that's exclusively dedicated to a single organization or a group of organizations that share the same characteristics. That's when what I mean by if a U.S. government is using a cloud on its own, then it's still a private cloud. Although U.S. government is considered a public agency, it's still the cloud it's used is only used to serve one company or one organization or a bunch of agencies within the U.S. government. So it is still that's what we call a group of organizations that share the same characteristics. So this is still private cloud. There are two types of private clouds. In the broadest and widest definition, all the data centers are actually private clouds. Because if you think about it, data center is also provide one or few companies with IT resources. Not as much on a on-demand side, but still it's providing IT services, right? So so data center at this point, a lot of we call it on-premise. That's in your data center. That is still a small cloud, just that it's on your premise. So On-premise basically means hosting and running software applications, data, and IT infrastructure within organization's physical location or premise. What you need to note is a lot of times we say cloud versus on-premise. In this case, the cloud usually means the public side, right? Then there's also the hosted private cloud. Hosted private cloud will hosting and managing the private cloud infrastructure in the security offsite data centers provided by cloud vendor. Now, this hosted private cloud can also hosted by vendors like Amazon, Microsoft, or Google. Just that particular infrastructure are only offered to a certain government, a certain organization. For example, both Amazon and Microsoft has specific government for cloud that's offered to U.S. or Canadian government. That's a hosted private cloud hosted by Amazon and Microsoft and utilized exclusively by a bunch of government agencies in a certain country. That's hosted private cloud. Um, so the difference between private cloud and the public cloud is who are the users. If the user is general public, anyone can jump in and start using. That's public cloud. If the user is limited to one or a few organizations, then it's private cloud, even if that organization is a public agency. The on-premise, in the broadest sense, is also a type of a private cloud. But usually, when we talk about data center migration, we can consider on-premise um, against public cloud are two different types of IT infrastructure. Now, with public and private, there's also hybrid. Hybrid cloud combines elements of both private cloud and public cloud infrastructure, right? Um, Usually, here that means the on-premise and the public cloud. You will utilize both. And this is likely what you will be using at your work. Most companies these days, most matured companies who have existing for 10 years or so, they have their own existing IT data center anyway. And they will also have new cloud implementations. They will connecting these two through some kind of a network. So that they both should still handle the legacy system on-premise, right? For example, like domain controller, Azure AD connector. They also can utilize some advantage offered by the private public cloud. Like here we have Azure utilizing the file share and other services you can have, right? You have a very very well defined set of servers inside your data center that can handle the baseline of your work. But then you can utilize the services, the scalability offered by cloud service provider, scalability and security and availability offered by the cloud. And these two can serve as each other's backup. So hybrid is likely what you will be using later at work. With public, private, and hybrid, there's also comes the idea of multi-cloud. Multi-cloud is basically using services and resources from multiple cloud service providers, namely AWS, Amazon, Azure, and GCP. This multi-cloud thing is not matured at this point, but I believe it will definitely be the future because every company will find some kind of advantage in one of cloud. You cannot imagine a cloud that can do everything 100% the best way, better than others, right? There's always some advantages here and there. Amazon definitely have more services and more resources. Microsoft is good at the business application management and the business compliance management. Google is good at machine learning and the global networking. So each has some kind of advantage, better than others. Um, Eventually, at this point, people are still using one cloud at a time and using separate clouds. But eventually, I believe in 3 to 5 years, the future state is people will start to using multi-cloud workloads, cross multi-cloud data across different cloud vendors, and the cost saving emerge across different clouds. So this is the future that you will see, but this is definitely certainly not what we are going to be discussing.